From the heat of the kitchen to the heart of midlife wellness. Welcome today. We have Chef Mark Allison joining us. Mark's culinary journey began at 16 in a small hotel kitchen in England, has taken him across the globe from running world-class restaurants to leading culinary education at Johnson and Wales University, serving as corporate executive chef at Forever Oceans and director of culinary nutrition for the Dole Food Company. Mark's true calling came not from the accolades, but from a deeply personal mission when his wife was diagnosed with stage 4 carcinoid cancer and two of his sons were living with type 1 diabetes. He saw firsthand the power of food, not just to nourish, but to heal, strengthen, and extend life. And today, through his Midlife Wellness and Beyond program, Mark is sharing that hard-earned wisdom with those 50 and over, helping them build strength, vitality, and joy through simple, nutrient-dense, whole food cooking. His philosophy is refreshingly straightforward: cook with fresh, seasonal ingredients, keep it simple, and focus on food that fuels both body and mind. We're going to dive into the lessons he's learned from the kitchen to the clinic, the recipes and habits that make the biggest difference in midlife, and how anyone, regardless of cooking skills, can transform their health one meal at a time. Mark Allison, welcome to Midlife Mail. Thank you.
Thank you for the invite, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. I started following you a while back and been watching your journey and learning more about you, seeing what you are doing. We got a couple of little interactions on social and Instagram, and I've checked out your website also, your ebooks, all of the things that are there. It's like, this is super interesting what you are doing in kind of this combination of personal passion and professional expertise, which I think is really gratifying in middle age. I want to ask you, as you start out, like, your career's taken you around the globe. Top kitchens, leadership roles. How has traveling and working internationally influenced your food philosophy?
You know what, Greg? One of the good things about being a chef, one, I love food, and my second biggest hobby is travel. So when I had the opportunity to combine both together, it was like a dream come true. And the influences I've picked up all around the world have been absolutely fantastic for my resume and for the references I use in the kitchen today. And I think food is one of the most universal things for bringing people together. You know, I think our fondest memories are usually sitting around the kitchen table with a group of friends or family, and you're breaking bread together and you're telling stories. So it's always been a pleasure to travel to new destinations. And instead of watching on TV, you're actually walking in their own footsteps, in their culture, trying to speak their language, tasting their food. And I think it brings it all together that we're all on one planet, and we're actually all humans that ideally we all want to try and get along with each other and just enjoy life. And I think food brings people together, and especially travel as well. So it's always been one of the most exciting things for me is to travel.
Speaking of travels, you're now in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that is not a North Carolina accent how did you get to Charlotte?
A long story. If we go back to when I was at school, I was one of these hard to teach youngsters. So I basically was one of these kids that would just stare out the window, wanting to be in the sports field and play some kind of sport. And I had the opportunity to do home economics. And I was the only boy in the class. Everybody else was a girl. All my friends were doing woodwork and metalwork. And I learned to cook. And I found straight off the bat, it was the easiest way to make friends. I left school and became a chef. And basically, at the age of 16, started traveled all around Europe, learning the trade. And then at the age of 24, I decided, you know what, I really do need an education now. And I went to night school. And I went to night school for 10 years. I did culinary arts for 5 years. Then I did a degree in education and a master's degree in business. And I got a job as a teacher. And I loved actually education. And over a 10-year period, I was very competitive. And all of my students that I used to take on culinary competitions won every major competition in Europe. And that led to Johnson and Wales reaching out to me and saying, come and work for us. So I initially moved over with my family in 2004 to Charleston for 1 year. And then after that 1 year, they had just opened a brand new campus in Charlotte. And I was invited to work there. And I later became the Dean of Culinary Arts at the Johnson and Wales Charlotte campus. So that's how I ended up in America. It was a long story, but it was fascinating at the time to actually have that invitation to come to America, because I had grown up in the 80s on Starsky and Hutch and the streets of San Francisco, and I wanted to live in America, and that was planted in my mind as a teenager. And it wasn't until I was 40 years old that I actually had that opportunity to move to America.
Mm. When we think about being a chef and becoming a chef and then ultimately an educator, and then we all tend to think restaurants, that chefs are working in restaurants and kitchen. How did you like? What does a corporate executive chef do? Like, how do you get, and working at Dole? Like, I'm curious, kind of like how that fit into your plan, even as you were thinking, hey, I'm kind of not in a restaurant, I'm not cooking or a chef in the traditional sense, but you are in these kind of grand manners.
You know what, Greg? It's funny, when I left school at 16, you either became a chef or a waiter, and that was basically it. And now, in this day and age, there's so many opportunities for chefs. Um, I had left Johnson and Wales in 2013 to open a culinary school in New Orleans. And obviously, at that time, my wife was still battling cancer. And I had to leave that job to nurse her until she passed away. And that was basically the first time I'd been unemployed. And David H. Murdoch, the billionaire owner of the Dole Food Company, actually rang me up and invited me to come and work for him. So I became the corporate chef at the Dole Food Company. And I've got to say, that was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life, because I just love fruits and vegetables. I love the products. And it was totally interesting. I think this is what sparked the idea of midlife, was actually working with Mr. Murdoch, who at the time was 93 years old and
Mm.
still the chairman at the Dole Food Company. And he only ate fruits, vegetables, and fish. And he was just super fit for somebody who was 93. And he just passed away in July at the age of 102.
Wow.
And I think that's what sparked me off, especially when I was working with scientists that were proving the benefits of eating fruits and vegetables and a whole food diet. But as their corporate chef, I used to do all their recipe development. We had a partnership with Walt Disney World. So when Star Wars came out, Cars 3, Invincibles, I did all the recipes and the dishes for the red carpet. Because of that partnership. So it was an exciting job to have. I did a lot of traveling in that job.
Mm. You mentioned before we got started about losing your job
Five,
with the
five oceans.
Forever Oceans, yes. And you were concerned about finding opportunities. And now you're remarking about how many opportunities have since found you also. And I'm curious about that, because I think that's something that a lot of men in midlife think about and deal with. If I leave this job, or if I get fired from this job, or if I'm the victim of ageism,
Yeah,
if you will, that's there, what am I going to do? What other opportunities that are out there? And you've had the concern, obviously, but you've had a
yeah.
much experience, and I'd love for you to unpack that a little bit.
That's a great question, Greg. And it's funny, because when I lost my job at Forever Oceans, that was really the first time in a career of 46 years that I'd actually lost a job, because the company went bankrupt and 150 people were laid off in one day. And that's when you start thinking, okay, I'm 60 years old. What am I going to do next? But I've always had the mindset to believe that there's opportunities out there. You've just got to go looking for them. And I think part of the problem also is, especially with older men these days, we get sort of in a comfort zone where we get used to everything. And we've really got to push through that comfort zone to see what's out there. and there's a lot of opportunities. It's a year and a half ago since I left Forever Oceans. I wrote another book on nutrition. I started the website up. I started my business up for midlife wellness and beyond. I've got a lot of clients that I work with corporations. I do now do one-on-one cooking classes for clients, and I think it's just putting yourself out and seeing what the opportunities out there. And I think also, women are brilliant at this because women seem to have nice groups of other females that they interact with and they talk with. And I think men have got to really do the same. That's why I love your website and the fact that you bring in men together, and it's all about communication. And you never know who you're going to meet that's going to offer you an opportunity.
When did you decide that this was like, I think this is viable? Like I can go after this midlife market. And you're gonna like you planted a similar flag that we have at Midlife Mail too, going, okay, like we believe this demographic is viable. We're right in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you're in your 60s now, you were saying, right? I mean, and you look
Yep. 61.
fantastic, 61, and you look fantastic.
Thank you.
What made you think that this was viable and like, okay, this is what I'm gonna go after?
You know what? After working at Forever Oceans, at an absolutely fantastic company, and seeing it go bankrupt the way it did, I just thought, you know what? If I start something, hopefully I can give it 100% and I can make it successful. Because I think if you've got that mindset of just trying 100% and going for something, then it's more than likely going to happen or be successful than doing nothing. And I just thought, I've worked for other people for 46 years. Some were absolutely amazing, some were not. And I just thought, well, the only person I can fire this time around is me. If I don't do a good job, then let's get rid of me. So I just thought, you know what, let's try and be the CEO of a company and let's just take it from there and see what we can do. And again, give it 100%. And so far, it's worked fabulously well. And I think part of the trouble is we get into a situation as we age as well where we don't want to take the risks. And I keep telling people that I don't even think my career started yet. I just refer back to Mr. Murdoch, 93 years old, still running a multi-billion dollar company. And I just think, you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to retire because what have I got to retire to? But I'm always going to keep busy and I always want to work. And that doesn't mean to say I'm not involved with my family or friends. I just combine it all together and make it work. And I feel good about the position I'm in now.
So define that for me, that in terms of what success really looks like. How do you determine like your day now and what you think this business in this chapter of your life looks like as a success? You guys say that it's going well, and I'm curious, like, how do you define what going well is? And I really want to know also who's reaching out to you, who's calling you, like who's buying into this also.
Success for me is being able to sleep at night without having any worries. And after battling cancer along with my wife for 8 years, um, and being left with three boys to bring up after that, now I've taken a step backwards in the fact that I look at the whole picture and try not to get stressed out over small things. So for me, a successful day is if somebody gives me a call and says, Mark, would you do a presentation for us? Then that's great. Or it might just be the fact that I've finished the workout in the morning and I'm keeping up with the writing that I'm doing, or I'm involved with something that I thoroughly enjoy during the day. I'm not after accolades now. Greg, there was a time in my 30s, especially when I was competing with the students, that I had to win everything. And now all of these things are just in cardboard boxes up in the attic. To me, what makes me feel happy and what makes me feel successful is the fact that every night of the week, I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my two boys and my fiance now, and we're having a good meal. And I'm not worrying about tomorrow. because I think we've really got to live for today, plan for tomorrow, but live for today. So success for me is basically at the end of the day, I've done the work I need to do, but now I need to enjoy that time with the family.
Mm. The turning point for you seems to have come from, health challenges in your family. Obviously, you
Yeah.
mentioned your wife, and we'll get into that. Your boys. Was there a particular moment when you realized that food could be your most important tool, in that fight? I talk a lot about controlling what you can control. And it seems like there was a moment for you where you realized, okay, this is what I know, this is what I can control, and how can I
Uh,
utilize it?
Great question, Greg. And I tell you what was one of the defining points, and that was we moved to America in 2004. And actually, I do a newsletter, a monthly newsletter now. And the November issue is coming up soon. And I've got a photograph of myself in November 2005, 1 year after I arrived in America. And I arrived in America weighing 180 pounds. 1 year later, I was 220. And that was because we arrived in America and everything was so cheap in 2005. And coming from the UK, we would only eat out about once a month. And then, of course, you move to America and all of a sudden you're eating out 3, 4 times a week, but it's all junk. And it was amazing in that 1 year period, I put so much weight on. And after I seen that photograph, I couldn't believe how overweight I was. And I had to take steps because I've always been relatively fit. And I turned to food to nourish my body again. But then when my wife was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2008, and there was no treatment for her cancer, she had a rare blood disease. We turned to food as medicine then. And we basically put the whole family on a whole food diet. And she survived. She was given 3 years initially before she would pass away, but she actually lived 8 years before she passed away in 2015. And with having two diabetic boys as well, food has always been priority because of their blood sugars. And then having the opportunity to work at the Dole Food Company and work alongside scientists that were proving the benefits of a whole foods diet, that basically accumulated into what I'm doing now, not just as a chef, as an educator, but also somebody that's really involved with food and the nourishing aspects of whole foods.
Mm. How does this translate to people over 50? Now you're specializing, if you will, in midlife, kind of even over 50. Um, and I'm curious also, one, where do you think midlife even is? Because again, you're 61, your mentor, was in his 90s, and passed away at 100, overall. And I'm 52, we're in
Yep,
this
look
sweet.
good.
Um, and like, where is it?
I, I think if you just go for the stats at the minute, which have dropped significantly since the pandemic, I think the average lifespan now for a man is about 75, 76. So if you look at that aspect, then midlife is around about 40 years old or 45. Um, but I honestly believe in that term. You are as young as you feel, and I've never felt my age. And I think if you think that you're younger than what you are, then generally you come across being younger than what you actually are. But I do believe it's a combination of a whole things that you can't just say it's food. You've got to put in exercise. You've got to put in sleep. You've got to put in mindfulness. You've got to put in community service because you've got to be involved with the community. I believe you've got to be helping people. And I think it's a whole mix of doing different things that keep your mind active and your body active.
Mm. Are people in their 50s, 40s, 50s, midlife too set in their ways, to change? Or what are you seeing with the clients that come to you? Is there resistance? Is there by the time they come to you, are they bought into making change? Like what are you seeing with guys?
Greg, I see a mix of everything. It's funny because I do a lot of one-on-one cooking classes now, and people want to change their eating habits, and then I get in the kitchen with them, and by the time we've done the first lesson, it's usually can you just make the food for me and drop it off each night?
I was going to ask you, are these remote? Are they local? Are they in person? Like, how are you doing this?
Most of my clients are in Charlotte, uh, so I work one-on-one with them, and then I do a lot of work with big corporations, health and wellness programs, and then I generally wherever that's going to be in the country, I'll fly to their headquarters and do either a keynote speech or a half-day workshop or a full-day workshop. But my normal clients in Charlotte are all within 2 to 3 miles from where I live. So it's just a matter of turning up in their house. All the ingredients have already been delivered there. And then we just do a cooking class and hopefully they're going to pick up some techniques.
What's the demographic? Is the split between men and women, or like you see more women, more men? What?
Well, you know what? I was talking to my fiance about this just the other day, and she was saying that you're going to get more women than men. And that's a fact. I get more women than men. And I think that's mainly because women are more open to try new things. I think that's part of the problem with men. We get set in ways, and we don't want to either embarrass ourselves or humiliate ourselves if we can't do something perfectly the first time. Women don't seem to bother with that. They're quite happy to just get in the mix and just pick up a knife and chop away, or pan fry a piece of fish. I think sometimes men are a bit apprehensive because they don't want to look like a fool. But it's like anything in life, you've got to learn. If you don't start from the beginning, you're never going to learn anything.
Do you change the manner in which you work between men and women kind of based on that? Meaning, like, you talked about the other areas that you're involved with in health and wellness. Again, there's a lot of mindset. There's the mental, there's the emotional, and the spiritual, obviously, and the physical. And
Yeah.
yes, you approach it from a chef's perspective and cooking. And I also believe, look, you can't out train a bad diet, and nutrition. But do you feel like for men we have to work in a different order? Meaning like they may not be as willing to look a little dumb or break out the knife and do this, but if we can start on the physical side or we can start somewhere else and you just have to use different arrows in your quiver, I guess.
You know what? It's funny because I was an educator for 20 years, so you pick up a lot of different techniques. And when I was at Johnson Wales, I was in charge of the education of 1,400 students every year. So you've got to find a happy medium with everybody. And I think that just comes down to communication. And I think if you're a good educator, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, you can get a good idea of what this person's going to actually be like in a kitchen, in the situation. And then you just work to their strengths and try not to work to their weaknesses and build and encourage their strengths within the time that you're in the kitchen. And I also bring out different stories about what I've done in the past and where I've traveled to and why food is just one of the best things you can possibly do to bring people together.
I want to talk about this notion of midlife wellness and beyond here, and that your philosophy emphasizes a lot of fresh and seasonal and nutrient dense ingredients. Obviously, we're avoiding ultra processed foods now. For guys that are new to this approach, where should they start? Or even guys whose wives or partners are new to this
Yeah.
approach, and maybe even do the shop. Like, what's step one?
Step one is basically taking everything easy because the majority of people these days, their diet is probably 80 to 90% ultra processed foods. And the problem you've got with ultra processed foods, apart from all the additives, the preservatives, the colorants, is it tastes absolutely amazing. And that's what becomes addictive. So to me, it's always okay, let's start with one of the most important meals a day, breakfast. And I give them usually around about 6 to 12 different breakfast ideas that they can easily make at home using whole food ingredients. Nobody's going to change completely because, unless you're a professional chef or it's something that you really enjoy doing, you're hardly ever going to have 100% whole foods because you've got to actually go out and buy all the ingredients. You've got to prepare them and then cook them, and this all takes time. And everybody these days seems to be rush, rush, rush. Unless you've got the time to start from scratch and learn new techniques and learn new dishes, it's a daunting thing to look at. But to begin with, I always start off with breakfasts and then snacks. Then we'll progress to lunches and dinners. And I always say, even if you just take one day of the week where you get together as a family and cook together, then it doesn't matter if it gets burnt or it doesn't turn out right, it's still edible. And it still actually brings everybody together and you're going to enjoy their moments.
Mm. This notion of processed foods, I think, is somewhat getting a bad rap to it. And I think, and I want your take on this. I mean, see ultra processed foods and they taste great and they're getting a rap that they're bad for you. And I think a lot of guys are falling into this. It's an either all or nothing thing, like you were kind of alluding to, which is either like, hey, if I'm not ready to go all in on eating quote unquote healthy, which means no processed foods, all this stuff that I haven't been eating, or the fruits and the vegetables, then I might not as well kind of like not do it at all. So are
Yeah.
all processed foods bad? Okay.
No, you know what? We live in a society now where it's pretty much convenience. So I think you've got to start small and remove certain items from your diet and bring in more whole foods. But I'm always about the 80-20 rule. If 80% of what I'm eating, then the other 20% can be total crap. Because at the end of the day, you've got to enjoy life. So, and I think the only problem occurs, like anything, ultra processed food in general isn't healthy for you. But again, it's the amount of what you eat that is usually unhealthy. So if you can throw in a few good fruits and vegetables along the way and get those phytochemicals into your diet, eating ultra processed food isn't going to be as bad as not incorporating them fruits and vegetables.
What about not all foods being right for every individual too? Meaning, hard to argue that fruits and vegetables could be bad for somebody, or certain, or eating more fish, or certain things.
Yeah,
Are there other places to start for guys to look into, whether that's food sensitivity tests or figuring out or blood work or saying, hey, I don't do well with broccoli, or I'm not like
yeah,
certain people have different reactions to different things. And even I'm looking at that with ulcerative colitis a little bit and certain things that have changed in my nutrition and certain things.
yeah,
And I'm reading, okay, well, these kinds of starches are better than these, or these kinds of vegetables are really fibrous, or they could be gassy, or they could, this
yeah.
too acidic and all these. So meaning like it's not just again the exact same landscape for everybody too. There could be better fruits for you than others, and so on and so forth.
And exactly, and colitis is something you've got to deal with basically your whole life. So you've got to find a eating system that actually works with your stomach and your gut. And a lot of the time, I think it's basically just removing certain items and seeing how you feel over a week period. The problem we've got with ultra processed foods is there's so many different additives and preservatives in those products that you'll never be able to tell which ones actually affect your gut or which ones are actually making you unhealthy. So it's more of an elimination process. But
Mm-hmm.
what I've found, especially with having two sons who's a diabetic, and actually my youngest son has got colitis as well, is the fact that uh, he does a lot better with whole foods as opposed to ultra processed foods.
Mm-hmm. And I
And I
find
think
I
that,
do too. And over
yeah,
again, like to your point, majority 80-20, I believe in that as well.
yeah,
80% of the time, I try to eat really clean foods that don't bug me. Very hard to do 100% of the time, almost
exactly.
impossible.
Yeah,
20% of the time, I definitely feel like if I splurge or take some other things, it's not, it doesn't, it doesn't
yeah.
go as well, in there. Are we making also too big of a deal of gut issues now? Like gut, everybody seems to be talking about the gut. Then all of a sudden, like, everyone's got gut issues. We should be paying more attention to the gut, our gut this, our gut that. Like, is this overblown?
I don't know about being overblown because I think when it actually happens to you, then obviously it's a serious issue that you want to keep under control. But I just keep coming back to when I was growing up, you never ever heard of all of these issues. You never even heard of a nut allergy when I was 10 years old or 15 years old or even 20 years old. So I think a lot of it's to do with the way food is processed these days, and the fact that we're trying to keep food shelf stable for so long. So you really don't know what these chemicals are doing to you long term. Um, but again, I can't really answer that because I don't suffer from gut issues. So I don't know. My fiance actually is got IBS, so she does, and she's restricted to a lot of things that she can't eat, and it does seem to be a big issue these days. Which again, I can't remember anybody talking about stomach issues going back in the
Well,
70s, 80s, or
leaky
90s.
gut this and stomach issues of this, and as you said, all these
Yeah,
different allergies and sensitivities, and whether that's gluten or celiac, and all
yeah.
these, and they seem to be starting very young, which leads me to my next question, which is what are the unique nutritional and lifestyle needs in our age group, that people overlook? Like, does it change when you get into your 40s, 50s, and 60s? Or hey, if you're sticking to the basics like you described, like that's gonna work
I,
forever.
for me personally, I can only speak again for me personally. Um, I think if you are having an adequate amount of whole foods, whether that is fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds, lean proteins, then you're basically covering your nutritional needs. I really do believe that. I think if you're on a really ultra processed foods, then you're definitely not getting the nutrition that your body needs. And I think that's why you see so many people with type 2 diabetes, so many people with heart disease, and also so many people with cancer. 85% of all of these chronic diseases are food related. And I think it's the fact that we're not actually getting the micronutrients that the body needs. And if you look at fruits and vegetables in general, they're the only product or the food product that actually has phytochemicals in. So you can't get them anywhere else. And phytochemicals help your body defenses against cancer, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes.
Hmm. Where does building strength and vitality through food come in? People, as we start to integrate fitness, stress management, all this, how do we integrate? How is that all integrated into, they always say diet and exercise.
Yeah,
But a lot of people also struggle with, okay, well, how do I put that together? Like now, if I'm exercising, again, just like the gut issues are prevalent, now everybody is over protein, everything is protein, protein. And people lose track of, again, like it's too much of a good thing, too much of a
yeah.
good thing. Like, where
I,
do I start and stop with this?
again, it's funny because in life, I think the happier you are, the simpler things are. And I think we overcomplicate life. And especially now, especially with social media and so much going on, you don't know actually what is real and what is fake. But if you look at the blue zones around the world and these centurions, they're not eating 150 grams of protein every day. Yet they're living a long, healthy life. And I think to me, it all comes down to finding a happy medium. If you're eating enough whole foods and you're getting out into the fresh air and the sunshine and you're exercising and you're communicating with people, then I think you're going to have a damn good life. I think we start stressing about we should be having 100 grams of protein. We should be working out 3 or 4 days a week. We should be doing this. We should be doing that. Where we're forgetting the fact that we should be living and we should be out enjoying life.
Hmm. I want to ask you about that because as decorated as you are as a chef and as a professional on what you're doing, uh, your personal story and your personal journey is is really deep. What you experienced with your wife. Uh, I'm one of three boys. I lost my father when he was 47. I think maybe we may have chatted about that. So
Yeah.
the opposite, my mother was a single mother raising three young boys. You became a single dad raising three boys. And if you'd share a little bit about how your perspective, may have changed or did change during, during your wife's illness, and then post, with your wife passing away, back to this notion of, again, I think enjoying life. Like I've always felt like, okay, when I hit 47, I felt like I was in bonus time now. Like I've lived now longer than my father did. I never knew what
Yeah,
to
yeah,
expect,
exactly.
how it was going to go. Um, and I'm very sorry for your loss. And I watched my dad suffer. And they similarly they gave him 6 months, and 6 months became 3+ years, and so on
Yeah.
and so forth in there. But you're not. How's your perspective shifted? Going through trauma and grief.
Um, my wife was diagnosed at the age of how old was she? 42, and and previous to that, about 4 years, that's when my son became a type 1 diabetic. He was at the age of 14 months when he became a type 1 diabetic. And our life sort of changed then when he became a diabetic, because like most kids are learning to walk there and talk. He was learning, or we were learning to inject him twice a day and count his carbohydrates and test his blood every day. And I think health issues always change your mindset on things, and you start to appreciate your own health and how lucky you are to be healthy. And then when my wife was diagnosed at the age of 42, my wife was an amazing lady. I was the Dean of Culinary Arts at the time, and my wife was always at me when I was doing business functions, because everybody just loved her. She just had this personality where everybody just immediately became friends with her, and it made my life so easy. So then to see somebody as beautiful as that get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer at the age of 42 was absolutely devastating. And there was no treatment for my wife's cancer. So then it was the fact that we just decided to live every day we possibly could and enjoy every day. My wife would always wear our nicest clothes wherever she went, even if she was picking the boys up from school. Uh, we did everything that we possibly could. Went on vacations. We did long weekends away, and I think that changed the whole mindset for me, because before that I was all career mindset. I had to do the best I possibly can. I had to be the best I possibly can. But when we found out Allison only possibly had 3 years to live, it was making the most of those 3 years. Um, we were given 8 years ultimately before she passed away. And again, I was left with the three boys, and the boys at the time were 18, 16, and 12. And I've got to say, Greg, that has definitely affected my three boys, the loss of their mother at that age. And I don't think it matters what age you are. I think it does affect you when you lose your parents, but especially when they're all teenagers. And it was basically rallying around the boys and making sure that I could do everything I possibly could as a father. And and of course, James had health issues as well. So for me, it was just like keeping a job, but also having a job where I could actually have a family life as well. Because before that, I used to travel a lot. Then it was okay, family is first, and let's look after the boys. And now I've got three amazing boys, all working, all doing well in life. But I think health issues definitely change the way you look at life, because and especially men, because I don't think I matured until I was 50. You know, I don't think I really grasped the fact that, you know what, I do have responsibilities, and my responsibilities are for the children that I've brought into this world. And that's how I've got a different outlook. And also, you know, every time I look at my three boys, I see my wife, because they just have her personality, which is absolutely amazing. So my story is, you know, and it's not a one-off. There's other people in worse situations than myself, and I just think, you know what? At the end of the day, nobody's coming to help me. I've got to help myself, and nobody's coming to help my boys other than me. So I've got to be there for them, and I've also got to be there for me, because if I'm unhealthy, I cannot do a good job as a dad.
appreciate you sharing all of that. What what did you do for you? During obviously you've had to give so much of yourself as a caregiver, again, as a husband, as a father. What were some of the things that you had to do for you in order to keep going to be able to do this? I think sometimes that gets lost, in
Yeah, I would agree. You know, one of the good things to bring the boys more together was I turned my garage into a gym, and we would work out every night together, the four of us, and that really brought us together. And then also every night we ate dinner together. And then other things for me was just to um, one, to get back into shape, two, to look at what I could do to help support them in their journey for their education and their careers, and that gave me a fresh lease of life to help other people, and especially the boys. And then I started a charity about 5 years ago in honor of my wife, called For Cancer Celebration of Life. And we're coming up to our fourth annual event on September 6th. And this is a very special night for me because it'll be my wife's 10th anniversary from passing away. And it actually falls on her birthday. And it falls, and the event will be at a venue where when I initially thought of the concept, I wanted this hotel. And it's taken 5 years to get there. And we've sold out. We've already sold 220 tickets, and hopefully we'll raise over $100,000 on the night. And it's things like this that keep me going. It's not about me anymore. It's about giving back, and it's about helping the community. But while I'm doing that, that actually benefits me because I feel good about it.
Mm. What's your advice for men that feel stuck, there? I mean, obviously you've overcome significant obstacles. I also think that frankly, a lot of guys out there fall into this proverbial midlife crisis, this pity party, there.
Yeah,
And whatever lack of saying it, it's like most of them don't have it all that bad, like they're stuck, or something
yeah,
is keeping them from, like you said, we've moving from the job where they've always worked for somebody to being willing to take a risk and start something themselves.
yeah,
Going from a sedentary kind of lifestyle to taking a step to becoming fitter overall, to
yeah.
even having such a great relationship maybe with their kids or even their partner, because they tend to chase salary and title. All the
Exactly. Yeah,
stereotypes. You've lived them, you've
definitely.
seen them. What's and I try also to say, like, I try not to give advice as much as share experiences. Like
Exactly.
like in your experience, like, what do you tell that guy again who seems stuck, who's having that pity party, who's just complaining all the time? And it's like, hey man, like,
It's not going to change until you actually change. That's the problem. And I totally agree. I've got friends who are in that same sort of position. Some of them are unhappy in their marriage. Some of them are unhappy in their jobs. Some of them are unhappy because of their health situation. Um, but it's always good to talk. I think that's one of the things we're missing in our society today is communication. We're so involved with social media, or so involved with our phones, or being on the laptop, or filling our day with things that are really unimportant, that I think we just need to step back, have a good conversation with somebody that we feel that we can actually tell them things that we probably wouldn't tell anybody else. We've got to have some trust in somebody, and to open up about what we actually feel. But then to be given, like you say, you don't really want to give advice, but you want to give advice because nobody's going to do anything if they don't know what they need to do. So you can always give them some kind of advice. And my advice normally is the fact that, you know what, like I said before, nobody's come to help you. You've got to actually do it yourself, but you don't have to eat the whole elephant in the room. Just take one bite at a time and do something small and build on that until you get the confidence and you get the momentum to go after the life you want. One of the worst things I see, Greg, is friends of mine who or in marriages that they're not happy with, and it's more of a financial situation. But who wants to be with somebody for the next 10, 15, 20 years just because of money? To me, you can always make more money, but you cannot, you want to be in a relationship where you love that person and you want to feel appreciated. And that could be both sides. But that's not going to change until you change, until you decide this is what I want. And it's the same with health, and it's the same with careers.
I think there's a lot of to what you're saying also that we again tend to overestimate even what we can do in a day,
Yeah,
underestimate what we can do in a year. And I think again, just like the food, the all or nothing kind of paralysis situation, thinking in order for me to go from where I am now to where I want to get, there's just so much white space there that I
yeah.
almost can't see it. But like you said, if you can break it down, love the analogy, I use it all the time too. It's like how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's like you can legitimately break it down to that, one
Yeah,
healthy meal, one fewer, Coca-Cola each day.
yeah, exactly.
Making these little swaps, these little
Yeah,
changes in all of these areas, then you get that compounding effect over the week, the month, the quarter, the year. And you're not going to see it in the picture on day one and then take another picture on day two, but you will see it if you compare the picture on day one to day 90, or day
exactly. Yeah,
so on and so forth. So, no, I appreciate that very much. You've mentioned that you're engaged and you have a
yep.
fiance now. When did you, I don't even know if this is the right way to say it, give yourself either get back out there or give yourself permission to look and find love again? And, how did you approach that? I think it's so eloquent the way that you speak of your wife and also be able to speak about your fiance. These are, again, chapters and seasons of our life. Good, maybe not exactly the way that we intended the book to have been written, in there, but
Exactly.
and uh, how did you approach that, finding love again?
Greg, this was by pure chance. And it was about 3 years after my wife had passed away. I get a message on Facebook from this lady who wanted me to do a charity dinner and be auctioned off. And I do all these all the time. And she reached out via Facebook and said, I don't even know how we're friends on Facebook, but you're the only chef that I know. Would you like to be auctioned off for this educational event and do a charity dinner? And at the time, I was working for Dole, and I said, I travel quite a bit, so it just depends if I'm in Charlotte the date of your event. As it turned out, I wasn't, but I said, I'll find another chef for you. So a good friend of mine actually did the event. The event was a huge success. And Jacqueline, my fiance now, she reached back and said, Bill was fabulous, but I need to thank you. Would you like to go out for a glass of wine? And as a thank you present. And I was hesitant to tell the truth at the time. And she badgered me until I said yes. And then we went out and we got on great. And we had 4 dates. And then it sort of like fizzled out. And that was it. A year later, Greg, I wish everybody on my Facebook page happy birthday, no matter who they are. I reached out and said, Jacqueline, happy birthday. And she went, oh, he remembers me. So she reached out and said, I can't believe it's a year since we last had a drink of wine. Would you like to come out and celebrate my birthday? So a year from when we first met, I said yes. And we've been together ever since.
Oh wow, that's a great that is a great story.
So it was pure chance.
How do you see the conversation around food and aging evolving over the next, 5 or 10 years, bringing it back around to what we're talking about? We're all growing. I think we're all evolving right now. Um, and we've seen a lot of changes over the course of our lives. I know I eat and think about food and nutrition and exercise much differently now in
Yeah.
my 50s than I ever did even in my 30s. And I remember in my 40s, I had turned 40 and I was so excited because now I was the young guy in this new age bracket, for CrossFit, like 40 to 44. Like now I'm, instead of being the oldest guy in the 35 to 39, I was excited to be the young guy. And then you get into your
Yeah.
50s and you see it. But I think so much of it is what you've talked about as you continue to grow and evolve, that your perspective shifts around again, not perfection, but rather than like perfect is the enemy of good, and what does
Yeah,
good really look like and what does it feel like and live
yeah,
like? So I'm curious where you think it's heading and evolving between food, aging, health, and where even you fit between this kind of notion of like, I call it basics and biohacking. It seems like
yeah.
there's staunch people that are on the basics kind of side of things, and now we're seeing again more biohackers, more influencers, more stuff that I'm just like, really? Like out there, like even if it's great for you, it just doesn't sound like so much fun, or it sounds like so much work. Like, you know where I'm going with that with this?
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was working at the Dole Food Company, one of the privileges of working for that company was I used to work at the Dole Nutritional Research Center, which is in Kannapolis, and there's 9 universities work out of that facility, all looking at nutrition. And the thing you've got is a lot of these supplements and different foods that are coming out. There's actually no actual independent research done on them to say that they actually work. So they can make tremendous claims, especially in the supplement market, for products that just don't work. And I think that's part of the problem at the minute is everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, especially now you've got GLP-1. All of these people now that used to sell weight loss pills and different supplements are now selling longevity ingredients. And I've got to be honest, I think it still comes back to if you eat whole foods that are full of nutrition, then you're going to live a long, healthy life. I don't take protein powders. I don't take supplements. All my food is basically whole food. I don't think about not having enough vitamin D because I go outside every morning and I'm in the sunshine for an hour walking the dog. And I get all of my vitamins through the foods I eat. So I don't, to me, I always come back to this like sort of question. If vitamin and mineral supplements were that good, why have we got an obese population that are unhealthy? Because if just taking one pill a day that covered all your nutritional needs and your vitamins and your minerals, why isn't that pill curing everything? Because it's not, because you really need whole, fresh fruits and vegetables and whole foods. That's where the vitamins, the minerals, the phytochemicals are contained.
Mm.
I think it's great if you want to make a lot of money. And you jump on that bandwagon of biohacking and you're not going to die. Unfortunately, everybody's going to die sooner or later, but it's the quality of life that you want to have while you're alive.
I think that's where you're hitting the nail on the head. I think it's the quality of life too. It's one thing to say, okay, you can live to 100. It's another thing to say that in order to live to 100, it's going to cost you $2,000 extra every month. You're going to be taking
Exactly.
65 pills. You're going to have to go to bed at 7 p.m., wake up, at 8, like to do these things, you're going to have to breathe a certain way, your breath work, your
Yeah.
meditation, your vitamins, as you were saying, you're going to have to sleep at least 8 hours a night. You're going to swallow all these pills. And you go, wait a minute, how does this, how is this living?
Greg, I totally agree. Again, we've overcomplicated everything. We're making everything so complicated. We're making a checklist that you've got to check everything off every day to feel healthy. And to me, you're probably going to bed stressing about one of them tick boxes that you never ticked.
So the other area I want to ask you, so if you're sticking to okay, I'm getting what I need through nutrition, I'm getting what I need in terms of sunlight and exercise. What do you test for? Like, do you benchmark anything for yourself? Like, do you get your blood work done? Do you have a primary care physician that just so that okay, like,
Yeah.
hey, I can support this basics over biohacking theory because, okay, I actually do actually see a doctor. I do feel good.
Yep.
And I'm asking that because I think there's also a lot out there now where there's an over-indexing in getting your blood work done and finding these
Yep.
so-called companies, optimization, longevity companies, and they're testing everybody's blood morning, noon, and night, whenever else it is. And they all have their own kind of algorithms, their own
Yep.
definitions of what is optimal, what is suboptimal, whether that's testosterone, whether that's vitamin D, as you mentioned, whether
Yep.
that's anything. And you ask five, 10 different physicians and you could get five different opinions, or you can get five of the same exact opinions from five credible physicians, and they drastically differ from what, the company that just analyzed
Exactly.
your blood is telling you. And now they're saying, hey, you need to take 17 different pills to get all these levels back into the green,
Yeah.
when they're the only ones who decided where the green was and where.
And that's the other thing. Who's deciding where the green is? Because there's so many variations. I do have a doctor who I've had for 20 years now, since I moved to Charlotte. And the doctor I've got is absolutely amazing. He's exactly the same age as me. He used to be a professional cyclist as well. So he's all about health and wellness. I see him once every year. And I get all my blood work done with him. And every year, same, I get told I'm in the top 97% of all his patients because I'm not on one prescription medication. So to me, I try not to overcomplicate things by thinking I should get. And I think, again, also now that's the trend, is let's have all of these blood work done, and then let's try and predict what's going to happen to you in the future. Well, nobody can predict anything really about what's going to happen to you in the future, but then they can start selling you tablets or vitamin tablets or whatever it is
And I
to
think
keep
it
you
creates
sort of
stress
healthy.
and anxiety too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety with them
Yeah.
making you feel suboptimal because you're thinking
Yeah.
about, okay, then listen, if somebody tells me I got all this stuff wrong with me, I'm going to have a stomach ache. Like I'm going to get anxiety thinking about all the
Yep,
things
exactly.
that I'm not doing or what I do. And now I'm questioning everything I put in my body and so on and so forth around there too. So I think it's this kind of like, it's just like self-aggrandizing kind of philosophy that like this, like it keeps spiraling.
Exactly.
You
It's a
keep
vicious
thinking
circle.
about health and wellness and longevity and sustainability, and then the more you do, it's the vicious cycle into not feeling as good because you're doing all
Exactly.
these things and you're worrying about everything.
Greg, I'm from England. My accent's more Scottish because I was born very near to the Scottish border. So, being a little bit Scottish, I'm always wary about spending money. And that's one of the things I always look at. Who is making the money? Follow the money. Because if nobody's made, this is why there's no money in fruits and vegetables, but there's plenty of money in supplements. you know so
Mhm.
if everybody just ate a whole foods diet, they'd probably actually feel very healthy. But like you've just said, if somebody tells you this could be what's wrong with you, then instantly you start thinking that's the problem.
Yep. And then it attaches itself to every other area of your life.
Exactly.
We go and we go round and round on that.
It's like
So
a
that in mind,
spiral.
what is what does a typical day look like for you? Like, what do you? I know again, everybody's a little bit different, but like, walk me through your day. What do you do?
All right. A typical day, I usually get up. I am not in the 5 o'clock club. I get up at 6:30, and I have breakfast at 6:30, and that usually involves something to do with eggs. Because I usually try to get a little bit of protein first meal of the day because you're breaking that fast overnight, and then I go and walk the dog, and we walk 3 mile every day. And then I get back and then I work out 30 minutes. That could be aerobics or it could be lifting weights. Then I'll grab a shower. And then the rest of my day is either working with clients or doing presentations. Or at the minute, we're working on for cancer. And it's usually I'll be either doing a one-on-one cooking class, or I could be traveling somewhere to do a keynote speech or a presentation on health and wellness for companies. And then if I'm based in Charlotte, then usually by about 4 o'clock that afternoon, I'm making dinner for the whole family. And we're usually sitting down having dinner by about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Mm. What is next for you, midlife wellness and beyond? New projects, new things that you're up to. What are you excited about?
I just wrote a book on nutrition, all about whole foods. So that's just been released. And we're just going to see. You know, I'm at the stage of life where I'm not looking. I'm not looking for something extraordinary to happen. I'm just looking that hopefully I can help people to feel better about themselves, whether that's their health or their mental situation they may be in, or relationships they may be in, just to actually help people. Because I think I'm at the stage where I get more benefit from seeing people improve their lives and their situations than I do of my own, because I think I'm in a good place.
Mm.
I'm enjoying life. Uh, you know, if I hadn't lost my job, I probably would have still been at Fiber Oceans doing the same thing. But this has now given me the opportunity, the last sort of 18 months, to do something that I think has always been inside me to do. And it's a combination of everything that I believe in. It's a combination of food, it's a combination of exercise, it's a combination of mindfulness and community. And I've been able to package that all in one. And if I can help people through that, then that makes me feel good.
Mm. I don't want to overlook this because now you said this, it's got about if you hadn't have lost your job. Similarly, like I was let go from a company that I was a partner in a firm. We sold the firm. We all were supposed to stay on for, a year or something like
Yeah,
that. Kind of. And basically like I made it like 6 months before they're like, get out of here. Like we're
yeah, yeah.
like
That
you don't
usually
want to be,
happens.
yeah, like you don't want to be here and we don't want you here. Like
Yeah,
it's always as to me like, wow, like I wish I had done it differently, meaning I wish I had gone to them in advance. When the deal was going and saying, look, guys,
yeah,
like we could part of like I was already on the side. Like I didn't have the courage
yeah,
to jump off the cliff. Like I was already there. And effectively what all they did was push me. Like it got
yeah.
to the point they
Exactly.
pushed
Yeah,
me. I didn't have the courage to do it myself. And I always wished if I could go back, and I try not to look backwards, but I should have gone to them when the deal was going down and say, look, I'm not going to stay for a year. Like you guys want to go off and continue to do this and make it bigger and better. You're going to stay for years. I don't even want to stay the
yeah,
one more, like, and negotiated my way there. And yours was in the manner where, hey, we all got laid off, like 150 plus people or whatever you were
yeah.
talking. The decision was made for you. And here you said, hey, I might have stayed, like had that not happened. I think that is a lot of guys where they're not
Yeah.
like, oh man, like if I get laid off, I have no choice. But like, are they sitting there waiting, like, oh, I hope we all get laid off? Or they're thinking I should do something and they don't have the courage to do it. I think maybe what both of us have at least learned is like, again, life goes on, meaning
It,
like to your, whether we got laid off or whether we left on our own. And I also believe you could always go back. I think capable
yeah,
people
yeah,
always get a job, meaning like
yeah.
if
Exactly.
but if you have always wanted to do something on your own and you've never done anything on your own, if you have any chance of being successful on your own, you almost the first thing you have to do is actually bet on yourself. Like you've got to make the move, right?
Yeah. I think the decision was made for us, but I do think if you believe you can do something, just stick your toe in the water and do it while you're working full time and see how much you can do. And then if the opportunity comes along and you get that option to actually jump in with both feet, then do it.
I think that's a great piece of advice, which is okay, you can hedge a little bit.
Yeah,
Like you can hedge because I do think that too many guys end up never making the move.
yeah,
Again, it's back to the all or nothing. I'm here. Okay. I'm not like, they never muster up the courage to leave. And then it is 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then it's too late, if you will.
yeah,
And if you get forced out, you see more guys having to make it happen on their own. But I do think that that's good advice in terms of a bit of a hedge. Hey, dip your toe in the water. Try
yeah.
it.
Just try
Go
it.
after
Just give it a
something.
try.
See if that hobby can become a passion. See if it
Yeah,
pushes you over. And also, from a couple of guys who've had the experience here, like don't wait like until it happens to you.
yeah,
Like if I had the courage, or if I had seen what was up down the road, I would have done this years before
yeah.
in there. And again, not have worried about what the perception was, you know,
Exactly.
of leaving such a good position, if you will, is
Yeah.
it in there. I want to ask you also, okay, what is the one recipe or dish or even food or preparation that you think every guy should know how to make or man, midlife or otherwise? Like, what's the nutrient dense, like, what's the go-to? Like, hey, man, if you could do one thing,
My favorite dish, and it's actually packed full of nutrition, is paella. You know, the Spanish rice dish
hmm,
with chicken and seafood. That dish has got everything you need. You know, you've got your rice, you've got your peppers, you've got your onions, you've got your peas, you've got your shellfish, you've got your chicken. That basically covers all the bases. And it's so simple to make. You just throw it all in one pot and let it cook away for around about 40, 45 minutes and it's done.
mm,
So that would be something that is totally nutrient dense. Um, but you know, if you're in a situation where you're trying to impress the family, um, I know what always goes down in my house is basically steak frites. Just pan fry a steak, make a pepper sauce, hand cook them potatoes, put them in the air fryer, and you've got a perfect meal done in 30 minutes.
I love both of those things. Thank you. I thought you were going to go with breakfast because you said you started with breakfast with all pretty much all your clients. Yeah, but
A
what is
lot
a
of,
good
I have a whole
breakfast?
different array of different breakfasts that I give my clients.
What is a good breakfast? Did you pick?
For me, I normally have usually an omelette with onions, mushrooms, and peppers, and half an avocado.
Okay, I can do these things. That's the
It,
point.
it,
These are simple things.
Greg, you know what? It's like anything. It's you know what gets me about say computers is I feel terrible with computers, but then you learn step by step and you realize that it's actually pretty straightforward. And it's the same with food. I think we have this like mental image that cooking food is a lot harder than what it actually is.
I think there's twofold. Yes, about that, but secondly, everything you described does not sound to me like I'm sacrificing or like, oh, he just rattled
Oh,
off three things that I don't want to eat per se, or
yeah,
in order to again be healthy, I have to be on this restrictive diet. You just rattled off three things there. Okay, I can put some other things in an omelet, but okay, an omelet and a half of avocado. Okay, good. You know, like, oh, wait a minute, paella, rice, like, shouldn't I have been all against carbs? Right? And it's
yeah.
like you shouldn't be all against carbs. It's like, okay, I can do rice, I can do chicken, I can do seafood, I can put that in there. Okay, good. And wait a minute, I can have fries if
Yep,
you
of course.
say, and it's okay. Here's the difference. Instead of deep frying them or picking them up from McDonald's,
Yeah, you're air frying them.
right? You can air fry, you can be slicing and dicing your own potatoes and you can
Yep.
put them in an air fryer. We live on our air fryer, thankfully.
Yeah, me too. I think it's one of the best pieces of cooking equipment ever invented.
And I think there's a healthier version to a lot of
Yeah,
these things. Like now I get jazzed up because like we're big foodies in our house and everything too. And I still do like to eat like a kid
yeah,
and feel healthy. But like we've used that air fryer where we're making our own homemade chicken tenders. So instead of
yeah.
them deep fried and done, it's great, healthy, organic chicken. It's the highest cal. My wife makes her own breadcrumbs and makes her own bread
Excellent.
and all of a sudden, like you're like, wait a minute, these foods are that are synonymous with grease,
Yeah,
and unhealthy and artery clogging stuff. Like all of a sudden, you can have them feel really, really clean.
yeah. You know what? I get my calcium score every 5 years,
Okay.
and it's I just had it done this year and it was zero. So at 61, I'm still zero, and I'll eat any kind of food that's going. Obviously, I don't eat ultra processed food, but any real food, whatever way it's cooked, I'll eat it because I'm getting the benefit of that real food. I think the problem is when it's ultra processed, and like you've just said, it's in one of these commercial deep fryers where the fat is just getting reheated, reheated, reheated until it's burned black. That's when you're getting all the problems that then gets transferred to people.
Which is very different than as you described to taking a good piece of meat, a good steak,
Yeah,
and frying it in good high quality like extra virgin olive oil or doing it
yeah,
in again a controlled environment or grilling it or air
exactly.
do it
Yeah,
and differences in butters and all of these things where you can take again it's out of your control when you go to the restaurant.
yeah, it is. And I think that's part of the problem we've got with society today is nobody's learning home economics at school anymore. So if you're not actually getting taught at school, or you're not getting taught by your parents how to cook, then you don't know what food to buy that is actually good for you. So I think it goes all back to education, that if you're starting when you're a young age and you talk about whole foods and what the farmers grow in the fields and how they look after their cattle and chickens and different things, to how you can choose it in the supermarket, to how you prepare it and put it on the plate, then we would not be in a situation that we've got this population that are mainly obese, type 2 diabetics, huge cancer is totally out of control, heart disease is out of control. And it really relates back to the fact that we're not educating people how to actually pick and choose and cook food.
It's such a great point. People don't know how to shop. Also,
Exactly. Yeah. They
they
don't know
don't
how to shop.
know they don't know how to shop, or they don't know the differences, and it
Yeah.
becomes overwhelming because there's so many products again that are out there, and then it's okay. All the milks are equal, or all the butters are equal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to your point, like that's not the case. Going out
Exactly.
and getting that education is is really huge. And like I want to get off this call and I want to go like grab my son and be like, we need to go to the grocery store. Like we need to talk about this and look at these things, because back to like raising young men, of which you've raised
Yeah.
three effectively on your own, you have the utmost respect for that. Like, how do they learn? Like you
Exactly.
send them off. Like, okay, if you don't teach them, we don't teach, you don't get out ahead of this stuff. They leave the nest like we're about to be empty nesters.
I
And
just seen your last post. Yeah, the two of them are leaving.
and they're used to, like you said, eating out all the time, or
Yeah.
not making great choices, or they have to go into grocery stores for the first time. And what do they think? They're either thinking, well, what do I have at home? Like, what did mom like used to buy? Or
Yeah.
matter, or I'm on a budget now that's completely different when mom
Yeah.
was buying it. So what do I do again to make good choices around some of these things? And
Exactly.
I think it's so important. Please let us know. Okay, how do we find you? How do we download your materials? Like, how do people reach out and get into your ecosystem? Because again, I think like these are the kinds of questions I think all guys and families in general like should have, and having somebody that could coach you
Yeah.
on these things. Like,
I am very easy to find. Just type in chefmarkallison.com and it'll come straight to me.
fantastic. Okay, can't get any easier than that. Mark, I really enjoyed this. I really think, you're one of the good guys. I know we're just meeting for the first time, but again, I've enjoyed everything that you're putting out there. I think you're I think you're gracious. I think your story is wonderful. I appreciate all your transparency. And obviously, what you're doing is very well needed. But being out there, living and leading by example, like I appreciate it at 53, looking at 60, 61, right now, I go, okay, like this is what it should be like.
Greg, it's been a pleasure. And I know it's the first time that we've met. And I totally believe in what you're doing. I think you're doing a great job. And I'm hoping in the future, someday, we'll actually meet in person and shake hands.
I
So
look
I'm looking
forward to
forward
it.
to that.
We'll break some bread together. Yes.
Exactly.
Mark, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you. Take
Thank
care.
you very much. Take care.